Hey everyone, this is Michael with Blue Mats. We're looking at the new high flow pump kit. We've kind of redesigned our pump kits using Perma-Loc fittings instead of some of the older, kind of less easy to deal with parts that we've used in the past. So this is kind of the new parts list, the new components that are going to go with a new high flow pump kit if you order one going forward here. So just to look through the parts to begin with, we've got the pump itself. This is a 3 gallon per minute SureFlow pressure sensing pump. This is a poly cutters. We've got about 10 feet of poly tubing. These are the Perma-Loc elbows. Got a bulkhead connector, filter, pressure reducer, 3/4 inch hose thread ball valve. We've got a couple of these Perma-Loc 1/2 inch valve couplings. This is a 1/2 inch pressure fit union. These are 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch PVC bushings. These are called the swivel T. You'll see them listed as a swivel T, so it's a T with a female hose fitting on the inside. This is a standard T fitting, a Perma-Loc T fitting. We have swivel end pieces, so they're 1/2 inch Perma-Loc by one side and 3/4 inch hose thread on the other. These fittings here are listed as 3/4 inch hose thread by 1/2 inch female pipe thread. So you can have a female pipe thread fit into that. This is an end cap piece. It's basically kind of the end of the line of the system. It's going to be a 3/4 inch hose thread on one side. Additionally, we're going to have a pressure gauge. There'll be 3 wire nuts, Teflon tape, your 3-prong plug. Finally, the last component is this 5 gallon pressure tank. And this will help maintain pressure on the system. These have a 1/4 inch threading on this side, and that's what we're connected to the system. Okay, so one of the next things we'll need to do is wire up the pump. This is a really simple thing to do. Anybody can do it at home. It's just as simple as using these wire nuts. So we'll take the 3-prong plug, and you'll just want to match the colors. You can just, there's plenty of videos on the internet about how to do this, but you'll just twist these together, take one of these wire nuts, and then screw it into place. Going over that with a little bit of electrical tape when you're done is probably a good idea as well, just to hold it in place more than anything. So our next step is to put this filter on. We want to note the directional arrow on the filter. There's also directional arrows on the pump too, so we want to mount it with your water flow going the correct way. The arrows on the bottom of this are right there. So this arrow and this arrow should be pointing in the same direction, which is downstream. I'm going to go ahead and mount this pump on this, this plate here, just a piece of OSB stuck on here as a mounting plate, using deck screws. Next step will be to connect the bulkhead fitting to the filter. If we take a look here, this is just a standard blue barrel. We've got a few parts to it. The first one being the bulkhead fitting. It's going to look like this. So you'll need to drill a hole in your barrel and then mount this. It's really simple. This piece just goes through the hole and then tightens up. And then you have this nice 3/4 inch hose fitting, which this 3/4 inch hose fitting valve can then just attach to. From there, the next piece will be one of these swivel by Perma-Loc fittings. And from there we can start our 1/2-inch poly tubing line. Let's take a look at these Perma-Loc fittings and how they connect to the poly tubing. Included in the kit is going to be one of these poly cutters. These are really handy, and it's just a little slicer. So the way this works is I'm going to start with a very small piece of this 1/2-inch poly tubing. You're going to get a 10-foot length of this, so it's probably more than is needed, but it will give you the options to customize your pump kit system. So from here, the way these work is we back off this collar. This collar can tighten or loosen, and then we can fit the poly tubing over this barb and then just simply snug it up. So now it's on there nice and tight. And we can put another fitting on. In this case, we'll put an elbow on and then tighten that up. This is going to go on the output from your reservoir. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process for the connection point to the filter. In this case, I'm putting in one of these hose fitting by 1/2-inch female pipe thread, and also then we're going to put in this 1/2-inch pipe thread nipple, which is going to screw nicely into the filter itself. So this piece here can now just fit right into the filter. Okay, we've put this elbow on. Now we'll just measure, kind of rough estimate the distance from here to there, and we'll cut that. And we'll kind of line that up, eyeball that up, maybe we'll shorten it up a little bit. Now all we need is a piece to span this gap. And again, this is all customizable just to where, you know, what's going to work for you and your space. I want to make sure and go through and snug all these. These fittings are rated up to 50 psi, so as long as they're held nice and tight, we won't have any problems. So far, we have the bulkhead fitting, the 3/4 inch hose thread ball valve. This is a swivel by Perma-Loc adapter. This is a Perma-Loc elbow, another Perma-Loc elbow. Another Perma-Loc by swivel adapter. This is your 3/4 inch hose thread by 1/2-inch female pipe thread. This black collar here is a 1/2-inch pipe thread nipple. This is your filter and our 3 gallon per minute pump. Let's take a look at the pressure gauge assembly and how to put that together. The first thing we're going to do is take one of these swivel tees, and we're going to use some Teflon tape here. We should really use these on all the fittings. So this is kind of a demonstration, but when you're doing it in real life, you're going to want to put some Teflon tape on all of your threaded fittings. So it's just taking some of this Teflon tape, wrapping it around those fittings, and that's going to create a nice watertight seal. So we can tighten that in, and we'll repeat the process with this 1/2-inch by 1/4 inch bushing. And this is going to prevent any kind of air leaks or water leaks in the system. hand tighten all that. And then the last piece will be your 0 to 100 psi pressure gauge. Okay, here's our pressure gauge assembly that we've put together. That's going to go just downstream of the pump. Coming off the pump, we're going to add a little more Teflon tape. And again, all of these fittings should probably be Teflon taped for best results. Let me get that started. And this fitting will go over the top of that, which will help adapt it. Now this is one we don't want to over tighten, because again, this piece can crack, this housing. So we're just going to hand tighten it, but really being sensitive not to over tighten it. Take a small piece of tubing. And then fit in our pressure gauge assembly. Okay, next step will be to connect the pressure tank to the Perma-Loc system. So again, we're going to put together a very similar assembly as the pressure gauge. We're going to put some Teflon tape on the hose thread side of this. And then some Teflon tape on the bushing. This whole assembly is going to screw onto here. I'm going to kind of eyeball a piece of tubing. This tubing is going to have a little bit of a bend to it when you get it, but it'll mellow out over time once it sits in place. Next thing we're going to do is build out the flush out and the end of the system. So we're coming off of the pressure accumulator tank. We're going to go straight into an elbow piece. And then we're going to have a flush out valve. And again, all these lengths and distances are things that can be adjusted and customized to your space. The last piece we're going to put on for the system is this male 3/4 inch hose thread fitting. And that's what's going to connect to our pressure reducer. attach this to the wall with some of these brackets. Something I just happen to have around that'll work really well to keep it secure. Okay, first step, attach this to the tank. This is our flush out valve in case we want to drain the pressure off the system at any point. Last step for assembly, we're going to use our pressure reducer. It's going to fit right onto that hose thread, and then our blue mat system is ready to go. Our last step will be to plug this in and test it out. We have the pump sensing that the pressure is below 40 psi, which means it's going to turn on and run. Here we go. We can see that pressure jump starting to pull. I'm going to let some of this air out right now through this purge valve. Okay, so we're now sitting right at 40 psi, which is the upper limit of the pressure switch that controls our pump. The pressure accumulator tank is what's holding all this pressure. And you know, we have our pressure reducer right here, which is going to run into whatever kind of blue mat system we want to put downstream of it. You know, this will come out at 15 psi. Believe it or not, that's at a 15 psi. That's our system there. And then if we need to, you know, drain this tank or, you know, open this up, reset it, we can always drop the pressure. So releasing this, you're going to see a big pressure drop here. It's going to get below that 20 psi, and then it's going to start charging up again. There you have it. That is the Blue Mat High Flow Pump Kit utilizing the Perma-Loc fittings.